Hey, loves. Welcome back to Service with Love. As always, I am your host, Desi, and today I have a very special guest with me today. It's my best friend, Cecilia.
Oh, that's nice to hear. I'm special.
All right, guys. So, as many of you guys know, Cecilia and I have been best friends for, over 10 years now?
Literally over 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, so Cecilia is actually a mental health counselor. She's going to go into more details with her license, but today I thought it would be great to kick off Thursday with talking about mental health. I think it's pretty much important for many of you guys to know.
It affects all of us.
Yeah, and the differences between it. There's you can go into like a very deep categories with mental health. So
yeah, for sure. I think for the purposes of this podcast, we're just going to talk a little bit more about depression and anxiety, since that's the most common types of mental disorders, especially in my work. I see a lot of depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder. You'd be surprised. It's pretty common too.
yeah, absolutely. So you want to tell them about your licenses?
Yeah. So I don't even know if you know, but I actually didn't go to school to become a therapist. I wanted to originally be a social worker in an oncology unit at a children's hospital. And then I had this one professor at Rutgers University. Her name was Jackie Phillips. I was obsessed with her. And then she convinced me to become a therapist. So, and I've been doing that since, well, now 4 years, but I do have my master's in social work, and I've been practicing therapy for over a year, almost a year and a half, maybe 2 years now, and I absolutely love it. It's become my life passion.
So you want to say shout out to Jackie for sure?
Yes, shout out to Jackie Phillips. I don't know if you'll ever come across this video, but I love you.
Jackie, if you're watching this, we love you.
I will literally send her a link.
So lucky for me, because my best friend is a counselor, I get all the free mental health advice.
Benefits.
I sit down on the couch and she just tells me, it's like, no, I'm just kidding, guys.
I feel like I always give, like, because it's become like my passion. Like, if I recognize it, I'm just willing to talk about it anywhere, anytime, any place. Especially now, if your viewers, if they're not getting treatment, of course I'm not their therapist, but they can take what I say with a little grain of salt, of course. But later in the show, I can definitely give like some hotlines, some tips, some coping mechanisms that have been proven to be effective for my clients nationally, globally. So yeah, it affects everyone, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah. I think it's very important to kind of identify that most people struggle with mental health. If it's not anxiety, maybe at one point in their lives, they maybe struggle with depression. So would you say anxiety is probably like the most common that you see?
Yeah, definitely. Well, more importantly, because there's such a thing as healthy anxiety and there's negative anxiety. And the poor anxiety we're going to talk about is the one that really impacts your quality of life. And that's the one that has like clinical symptoms that need treatment, like clinical treatment. Because of course there's like everyday stressors, everyday life, right? I had anxiety coming on this podcast, but that's healthy anxiety because I'm just nervous to talk about something that I love. And I don't want to say the wrong thing. And I want people to take away from this podcast. So that's like healthy anxiety. And then there's really poor anxiety where you can't even make a phone call because you have social anxiety and you're thinking, I'm a burden, I'm a bother to this person, I'm not going to make the phone call, I'm going to stutter the whole time, and then you're not getting a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
And then your physical health is now impacted because of your mental health issue. So it's like a domino effect.
That's interesting that you say. So when I know a lot of people, like even myself included, we tend to say, oh, like I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert. Do you feel like that can play into anxiety?
I think to an extent. I think that anxiety, it's like a spectrum. And there's like 10 is like, I absolutely cannot do this. It's impacting my everyday life and my everyday functioning. But then there's a portion of us that is just like our preferences.
Yeah.
So I think there is a difference. I personally feel like I'm an like introvert. but I am capable of like talking with people, engaging in conversations, even starting a conversation. Like that's something I did not like to do. And now it's like second nature to me.
That's good. I think especially now with your field too, like you have to be an extrovert even if you don't want to.
I feel like working in the hotel in the Sheraton where we worked, every person that passed me, I had to say hello. I had to acknowledge their presence. And so now I can say hello to everybody. And now they want to engage in conversation. And I'm like, oh, I gotta go.
I just wanted to say hello. I didn't want to say all the other stuff.
I saw something online that it says when you ask someone how they're doing, you really don't mean like to know how they're actually doing. You're just saying it out of politeness.
Yeah.
And sometimes people with mental illness, that's exactly what they want to hear. How are you doing? Really? When you add that little really, it's like, I really do care. I want to know how you're doing. And so when I'm talking with my clients, I say, how are you doing really? I can see your mood is off. Like I'm recognizing they're not making eye contact with me. They're fidgeting with something in their hands, or every answer or response is, I don't know, or I'm good.
Because they want you to search deeper into it. Right?
I guess, but you know, the ones that do have like social anxiety is a big one that I've been treating recently, and they always respond, I don't know. Well, you know, even one of my clients, they had really good progress. She would never show me her face on camera. And very recently, she showed me her whole face, and I was overjoyed. I'm not going to show her that because, you know, she can always relapse and go back to how she was. But I was so happy. Like, to see progress, it's amazing. It's amazing.
That's good. Do you think that there's, like, ways to overcome anxiety when you're feeling, like, at that very, like, the 10, like you said?
Yeah, there's, like I said, anxiety is a very large spectrum. And if it is impacting your everyday life, I would definitely say that instead of coping techniques, of course I can share some, but it would probably be best that people seek professional help. And there also are like anti-anxiety medication that some people do have to take. Sometimes it can be an chemical imbalance in your brain. So there's other things that we can definitely do to treat it. But one of my favorites actually is a shower meditation that I clearly have anxiety. I'm a human being, but I practice it too. And it's about this idea, like every time you take a shower, you close your eyes, be in the here and now, and imagine as the water is hitting your head, as it's hitting your shoulders, your body, you're washing away the anxiety, imagining it in your head, closing your eyes. If there's tension in your back, put it on your back, put the water on your back, and you know, imagery, like imagine that anxiety leaving your body and it's going down the drain. And that's one of my favorite techniques because it's something physical that you do and you have nothing else to do in the shower but shower. Yeah. So it's a great opportunity to start meditation.
It sounds so soothing, just you explaining it. I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to take a shower now. I'm like, I'm going to do that. It's like washing away my sins.
Yeah. And you can use it for other things other than anxiety. You know, if you have a lot of tension from the day or you had a poor experience, imagine that poor experience just leaving your body. Let it be down the drain and don't think about it anymore. Let it go. I actually wanted to share this quote with you that I heard because another imagery that you can do with that is depression. Imagine the depression leaving your body, moving from your head to your shoulders, down your torso, and down to your feet. And the quote that I found, someone posted it on Instagram. So whoever you are, I think it was one of my followers, and it was like, if you rearrange the word in depression, it says, I pressed on. And I think starting with pressing on, recognizing that you can overcome these challenges, especially because there's so much testimony of people overcoming their depression, it just helps you start the process of healing or grieving or, you know, just recognizing, hey, maybe I do have depression and I want to start treating it. And it's always helpful, especially when you have a clinical experience, like person with mental health background, to start the journey.
Absolutely.
Just starting the journey is courage. It takes a lot of courage.
I really like that quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should say it again.
Yeah.
I think it's like something like if you guys are listening right now and you're like, maybe you're in the car or you're on your way to work, or maybe you're just coming home from work if you're on YouTube right now and you're doing nothing, you should probably take the time to like, if there's any episode, guys, to listen to, it's probably this one, because I feel like everyone struggles with mental health at one point, and maybe writing this down will help you.
Yeah, if you rearrange the words of depression, it literally means I pressed on, and you do. If you're alive right now, that means you have power and you can press on in life. You can overcome these hurdles, and they don't have to be something that you suffer from forever. One of my other favorite quotes that I just put on Cecetherapy is, pain is absolutely inevitable. We literally live in a world where we have stressors everywhere around us, on TV, on our social media. We come home, we have bills, there's children to raise, there's food that we got to put in, our families, in our families' bellies. But pain does not have to be something that you experience forever. Suffering is a choice. Pain is inevitable. It's gonna happen. But suffering is a choice. And that's a quote that I've been using more recently with my clients. It's because I feel as though they're choosing to suffer. They're choosing to still grieve over something that happened 10 years ago. And the reality is like, we're in the here and now. It happened. There's absolutely nothing we can do to change it. So how do we heal from it? What do we learn from it? And a lot of them like that quote, so I figured I'd share it with your audience too.
Absolutely. Do you think that people try to like hold on to that suffering for a reason? Like maybe that they feel like they're not deserving to move on?
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of people internalize the things that have happened to them, whether that's like a traumatic experience, or even being the perpetrator of a poor experience. They internalize, wow, I am unworthy of love. I treated someone this way, or I was treated XYZ, or I was told I am unworthy. I'm unlovable, And then we start to believe that, and that's all a lie. Depression is a lie. It's your brain telling you, we don't have the energy to get up from bed right now. We don't want to socialize with our friends anymore. Let's isolate. It's telling you constantly lies, lies, lies. And with a combination of therapy, talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and medication, that's your best chances of overcoming that challenge, because it doesn't have to be forever.
Now, does anxiety and depression go hand in hand?
Sometimes, very frequently I do have clients who do have depression and anxiety, mixed emotions. And remember, mental health is a spectrum across the board. So, depression can happen stemming from anxiety or vice versa. One of my clients, she's just overcoming social anxiety. And because, let's say she can't make a phone call, or a person cannot make a phone call, and then that will hinder their depression, or that will they'll really fall back on that and be like, wow, I can't make phone calls. I suck. I'm worthless. Like, I just want to stay in my room. I no longer want to talk to people. I'm never going to get better. And then you start getting those depressive symptoms where you undereat or overeat, or you're spending too much time sleeping, or you're undersleeping, or you lose motivation to do things that you generally enjoy. You're fatigued. There's so many symptoms. And something else I wanted to address is that we use the word depression a lot.
A lot.
We use it too frequently, and so it's kind of really almost losing its clinical value. And yes, of course, we can have seasons of depression, or maybe an episode of depression, but to say I'm depressed and not be clinically diagnosed, I think we have to stop doing that. Mm-hmm. You have to be clinically diagnosed, and yes, of course, you can be experiencing some symptoms, but there is a severity when it comes to that. And if you are one of those people who feel, that you've lost hope, and that maybe even you're having suicidal thoughts, or you're undereating, overeating, undersleeping, oversleeping, maybe it is time that you seek professional help. I would definitely encourage your viewers, any clinical symptoms, to definitely seek professional help.
Absolutely. Especially if you guys really feel like you're struggling, always reach out, because a lot of people tend to kind of just overlook mental health because they feel like they're crazy.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be seen as crazy.
Yeah. Such a stigma around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely feel called to bring awareness to mental health, which is why I created Cecetherapy, just because I was like, I have so much knowledge that I want to share that I learned in school. And I also think to myself, like, why didn't I learn half this stuff in high school or in middle school?
Yeah, I think the systems like fails us in that part. You know, I feel like the most important education is mental health.
I think
and
so.
and dealing with oneself. Because
Yeah.
if you're not happy with yourself, life's just gonna be a mess for you. You know.
And no one has your back the way you have your back.
Absolutely.
Like if you know, and I hate the saying that people always say, oh, children don't go through anything. All they have to do is go to school. I provide for them. I do this, I do that. That's literally not true. Children experience traumatic experiences at a younger age. Children go through anxiety. They have anxiety about tests. They have anxiety about going to school. Maybe parents are getting divorced. That provokes some mental health issues. There's things that children go through. And to say that they have nothing, it's just wrong and it's poor. If I learned coping techniques earlier on, or if I had the opportunity to show kids coping techniques, that's what I want to do. Like it should be in our academics.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I wanted to mention, I should have mentioned it in the beginning, but Cecilia does have a Instagram page. It's called Cecetherapy. I'm actually wearing her shirt.
The shirt merch.
So if you guys are watching, this is the shirt. Obviously, I mean, it's really comfortable too, but I always rock it just because I am a big firm believer in her page and what she does, and I think it helps out a lot of people, and she probably doesn't even know that. And, you know, there's a lot of people that are watching you that are struggling by themselves. And sometimes your posts help. And I mean, I know sometimes like when I'm feeling down or whatever, your posts help me. And like, it's just good to see that, you know, you're spreading positivity in the world and knowing that there's like other resources out there. So you guys want to definitely, I encourage you to follow it. Even if you don't struggle with mental health, it's always good to follow it. It's very encouraging, and you never know when you're going to need that quote that day, or you never know if your loved one might need it, you know? Yeah. So definitely take that time to follow her. And with that, I wanted to kind of go into, I guess, the generics of anxiety and like what you would recommend for people who like, they're not like at that level to like be seen by a professional, but kind of just deal with anxiety, you know, like every so often, I guess.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage people who do experiencing anxiety to try to look up maybe some journal prompts that work best for them. Journaling your raw thoughts and emotions can definitely be an outlet to just let that anxiety be somewhere. It doesn't have to be on you. It can be on paper. One of my favorite techniques, because I also like yoga, but is the yoga breaths, doing the 4-4-4, which is an inhale of 4 seconds, and then holding that inhale for 4 seconds, and then releasing it for 4. That's one that has been just proven to help my clients. I even did that technique before starting our I was going to say session, but before we started recording, because I was experiencing my own anxiety and I started having heart palpitations, and I was like, oh no, I need to practice what I preach. And that's the thing. Therapists, I'm hoping, practice what they preach. So that's one of my favorite techniques, the 4-4-4, if you guys want to remember it. Another one is the grounding technique, using all 5 of your senses.
I love this one.
Yeah, when you use your 5 senses, you can name 5 things that you see. You can name one thing that you're touching, which could be the chair. I can feel the firmness of the chair. 2 things that I smell. I can smell the Desiree's plants right next to me. I can smell a little bit of my perfume. Using your senses is another great one. I have that on Cecetherapy as well. But I know that, everyone experiences anxiety, Desiree, and I guess, what are your favorite techniques? Have you ever had the opportunity to practice some coping techniques?
It's funny that you say that, because when you were talking about the grounding techniques, I mean, I personally use that one. I think that one has helped me, whenever I'm feeling anxious. And like, again, I think good anxiety comes with life.
Yeah.
When I was interviewing with the police department, I had really bad anxiety because I was like, I don't want to mess up this interview. Like, this is everything that I wanted. And like, I had anxiety to the point where it's like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I was like really like overwhelmed. And I found that when I did that, and I was just like, all right. And because I remember, because when we went to California, you showed me that. Yeah. So I did that, and then I felt at ease. You know, I mean, I still felt a little nervous, but nothing compared to like, I felt like, all right, that's worst case scenario. It's just not meant for you, you know? So I went in and I did it. And then I also had a call the other day with someone who had anxiety, and I used that too. Nice. And he calmed down. I don't know if he knew what I was doing. I was just like, you know, tell me what you're smelling right now. Did you eat? Like, what was the last thing you tasted? Yeah. And then, like, he was, like, answering me. He's like, why the hell is she doing this? But then, sure enough, he saw that. That's why.
That is amazing. This is exactly why more people need to know these coping techniques.
Absolutely.
Even if you're not a professional, you can still carry out the techniques, help people understand how to cope. Yeah. Just coping. Imagine if more children knew how to cope with life stressors. Maybe there would be a decrease in how many people experience depression, severe anxiety, generalized anxiety, bipolar disorder, you know, all these exacerbated symptoms. We could really be decreasing that, and we really got to start with kids. You know, I know, you know, I have a niece, Bella, and something that I always, you know, try to do with her is set boundaries. I feel like if you set boundaries earlier on in life and know how to set them, that you can really prevent yourself from being in situations that cause you harm mentally, physically, emotionally. You know, if children, you know, if there's children in your lives and they don't want to hug an individual that's in the house, or their cousin, you know, maybe they know something that you don't know, and they say, hey, mommy, I do not want to hug this person anymore. Hey, daddy, I don't want to hug this person anymore. That is setting a boundary for themselves, for their own safety, physically and mentally. And like, I encourage her to do that. I tell her to use her words, you know. We can start helping children and our friends, our family, understanding like, hey, you can get through this. Yeah. And here's some techniques.
That's amazing, especially because I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate children setting boundaries because they feel like, well, they're children. Yep. They have no say in their boundaries. Yep. And like, no, sometimes your children can actually be the ones to tell you, you know, like, I feel like children have the best, like, energy. Like, they know when someone's good and bad. They only see good until they're like, oh, all right.
It's like that sixth sense. Yeah. They're more in tune with that sixth sense.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. I'm like, oh, what's the word? But I agree, especially when it comes to like, you know, children are, for the most part, they're not malicious. They're going to be your friend. They like people for the most part, you know? And if you feel like your child's straying away from someone, that's a sign. Yeah. And you should run with that sign.
Yep. Read the signs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's why I absolutely love working with children. You know, I adore children. They've always been my preference. I interned at the Robert Wood Johnson Children's Hospital. I did clinical therapy with them. And I don't know, I just feel like they're so much more receptive. And like, I almost feel like you can help mold. If you get your child in therapy earlier on, you can help mold the person that they can become, or start addressing issues that they're experiencing now. And, you know, there's this saying online, it's like, it's harder to treat an adult than to raise a child, or something to that effect. And like, I think it's so true. When you can tackle the issue when it's beginning, or it's almost to the fruition, then you can really prevent it from continuing to occur or exacerbating the symptoms. You can really help them at an earlier time. And I think that's what the U.S. doesn't do enough of, prevention. Yeah. I honestly feel that way.
I agree. I think, and I think I agree to that saying, because I feel like adults were more stubborn because we're adults and we're like, well, you can't tell me how to live. Like, I pay my own bills.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yeah. Is that the saying?
Yep, that's exactly. I was literally gonna say, like, it's just like you can't train a dog that's already trained, you know, or that's not trained.
Yeah, and not to say that you can't, because there are plenty of, you know, older adults who have testimonies of overcoming, you know, their mental struggles. And it is very much possible, but it just makes the journey harder, longer, maybe even. When you have a child, you know, I do have quite a few young adults, and I just see that they're more receptive, and there's also a level of respect when it comes to your therapist. And that's something else I wanted to mention, is that therapy is like a doctor's appointment. Like, you know how you vibe sometimes with a certain doctor and you're like, I trust them with everything. I trust them with my body, with my health. And that has to happen when you are in search of a therapist. If it's not the first therapist, you don't get that vibe. Look for the second one, look for the third one. But when you find that match, treatment can be that much faster. It can be more effective. Your treatment plan can be created and tailored to your liking. Because I feel like people get discouraged. They'll try one, maybe two, and they're like, yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And to that, I would say, like, maybe that person, maybe that therapist wasn't for you. Yeah. But therapy, I feel like everyone can really honestly benefit at one point or another in their life.
I think therapy in itself is just healthy, you know? Even if you're not experiencing maybe anxiety or depression, maybe it's just good to know you had like a bad day at work, or maybe there's some good changes, and you know, you want to express yourself without having someone that like maybe knows you very well. So it doesn't always have to be bad, and you shouldn't associate therapy with a negative.
That's actually really funny you mentioned that, because I recently had a conversation, and my client was talking to me about, you know, she's had a lot of traumatic experiences in her life and a lot of poor relationships. And she has finally found someone who treats her well. And she was talking to me and she was like, I literally don't know how to accept this kindness. I don't know how to be towards him. I'm so used to arguing. I'm so used to having to have a guard up. I'm so used to doing everything. And now I have someone who wants to take care of me. It's so foreign. Yeah. It's a foreign feeling. And that's a great opportunity to not only seek therapy, but maybe even like counseling and like recognizing, hey, your past experiences are really hindering this relationship. Let's start talking about it. Let's start communicating more effectively. Because I believe truly to my core, if you are alive, you are worthy of a good relationship. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of giving yourself goodness. And it's hard to not internalize what you've been told your whole life. And so, yeah, the healing process, it can start, but it all starts with the person accepting the help.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you are not accepted, like if you're not okay with getting help, it's going to be a long journey for you.
Yeah, it'll be a long journey for sure.
You want to go on to a different topic? Is there anything else?
Oh, no. I definitely wanted to share this one boundary that I wrote down for you guys because my phone is dying. But it says, it is not my job to think, feel, or live for others. And I thought that was so powerful. We talked a little bit about it before we got on air. And I think everyone can agree that maybe at one point in our lives, we were living for someone else, or we kept thinking for someone else, or being maybe not ourselves. And that can really provoke some mental health issues. How about for you? Have you ever experienced that in life?
Living in the shadows? Absolutely. I feel like, I feel like, you know, I've always been the type of person to not want to disappoint, maybe. Especially like maybe with my mom. I know that there was times where like there was things I didn't want to do, but I did it because I knew that it made her happy. And I'm such a selfless person that I just did it. And then like ultimately maybe it was the right decision at that time, but it didn't make me feel the way that it made her feel. And I think a lot of children go through it. You know, what works for your parents, or what sometimes your parents' dreams is your parents' dreams. Yeah. And you have to be the one to break their heart or let them know like, hey, that's your dream. And I'm sorry it didn't work out for you, but it's my life and I want to live my life.
That's really powerful, Desiree. Yeah. That's really, really powerful. No, and do you feel like if you heard that quote earlier on, or if there was someone in your life that could have told you like, hey, you're allowed to set boundaries, you're allowed to make sure that you can set the tone for your safety mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, do you think that could have helped you on your journey?
Absolutely. I think it would have definitely altered a couple of things in my life.
Choices?
Yeah, for sure. Not that I regret anything in life, because I do feel like I'm on the right for the most part, I'm on the right path. I mean, there's other things, you know, but we're all a work in progress. But for the most part, I think it would have definitely maybe allowed me to set a boundary more often.
Yeah.
So
see, this is the therapist in me. I will turn it just because I just care.
Yeah.
Like, I want to give you a huggy because, you know, like, everyone experiences on some level a mental health, you know, little event, situation, or a lifetime of poor mental health. And I wish that people knew that they can start earlier, that they can get treatment now. If you're hearing this podcast, you know, start now. You don't have tomorrow. You don't even have an hour from right now. And something that I wanted to also share with you is another quote that I've been sharing in my treatment plans, in my sessions, is this victim mentality. I told one of my clients, and she really walked away with it with a lot, is like, you don't have to be a victim of your circumstances. You can choose to be the product of your circumstances.
I love that.
You do not have to be the victim. Yes, it happened to you. It does not define you. It is a part of your path. It was a part of your journey. It does not have to be the journey moving forward. It goes hand in hand with pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. We do not have to choose to continue to suffer. Let's end it today, and let's start today. Let's start the healing process. And I'm running with that quote now.
Yes, that's amazing. One thing I did want to mention, I'm probably going to be on a limb with this, so hopefully you could just pick up with it. But this month is sexual awareness, sexual harassment awareness in general. And I did want to make sure that I bring awareness for that. Would you give any like recommendations for coping mechanisms with that?
There's really no coping techniques when it comes to people who have had those kinds of traumatic experiences. Really, therapy can help. Journaling, having journaling prompts. You know, if any of them do follow me on Cecetherapy, I do have a lot of journaling prompts for individuals who are struggling mentally. But I would definitely encourage you, if you are the victim of sexual assault and this experience is really impacting your quality of life, I want to encourage you to seek professional help. And there is a hotline. It's a national hotline. If you don't really want a therapist, but you want someone to talk to, it's called the Sexual Assault and Harassment Hotline. It's by RAINN, RAINN, and the hotline number is 1-800-656-4673. And I believe you can also text that hotline as well if you don't really want to speak over the phone. But, you know, I want to say that I'm really sorry if you are an individual who has had that experience. The experience does not define you. It does not define where you're going in life. And you can choose to overcome the experience. You do not have to suffer from it. It is a part of your journey, but it is not who you are and where you are going. And if no one told you, I'm sorry, I want to say that I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That you had that experience.
I brought that up because you made a valid point with the, you could be the victim or you can be the product. And even in that sense too, there's a book that I read a couple of years back, maybe like 2 years ago. It's a memoir. I don't know off the top of my head what it's called, but basically she was a rape victim who went to the police, and it took her about like 2 years. And long story short, for a long time, they didn't believe her because she switched up her story several times. And I think she was in denial for a while of herself, and she ended up, going to court and going to trial. And after several years later, the guy was convicted. But she tells her story, and it's just a powerful memoir. I'll link it down below if you guys are interested, and just like reading the book. It was really good though.
Having memory problems after a traumatic experience is actually a symptom of PTSD. And so for her to be questioning herself is actually not abnormal at all. Yeah. Sometimes it's almost it's considered a coping mechanism, a defense mechanism, and you truly don't want to believe that you had that experience. It was completely out of your control, and your mind may want to block it out. You know, what the mind forgets, the body remembers, and your body will let you know, hey, something happened, or hey, something's off, or maybe your symptoms of anxiety have become skyrocketed and you're like, what's going on with me? Because even in your subconscious, your body will still remember.
Yeah. I think like it's like a traumatic experience that you try to block out, and some people can actually do that. And that goes with like a lot of like sexual assault people that we deal with, we try not to have them say their stories several times because they're reliving that story every time that they tell somebody. So it's just very important, and I do feel for people, but I definitely wanted to bring awareness. Again, if you know someone, who's struggling, or if you are that person, when you reach out to that hotline, do you have to can you be anonymous or no?
I believe you can. I think in any hotline you can be anonymous, unless it's an emergency of suicide. Suicidal ideation. But I'll say that hotline number again. It's from RAINN, which is the National Hotline for the United States, RAINN. And the hotline number is 1-800-656-4673. And I think this is a perfect segue into the other national hotlines that I wanted to provide you guys. The first one is clearly the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. This is a hotline you can call or text. And that hotline number is 1-800-273-8255. And if you are just clearly not in the mood to talk with someone, or it's difficult for you to speak with strangers, there's also a crisis text line that is also found on Cecetherapy, and Desiree will probably put in the subtitles for after this episode. But you can text HELLO, HELLO, in all caps to the phone number 741-741, and you will be provided with a counselor immediately. It does not have to be a crisis. If you're just having some mental health struggles, maybe some severe anxiety, depression, I would highly encourage you guys to give that hotline a text or a call.
Absolutely.
There's actually one more that I wanted to provide too, and it's just a general hotline. If anyone has further questions that couldn't be answered here during your podcast, that they can call. It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and these are for individuals, if you have a family member who is struggling mentally, or you want to learn more about a specific disorder, you can give this hotline a call. And the phone number is 1-800-950-6264. And I would highly encourage you guys, anytime you have questions, especially if they weren't answered here and you want to learn more, definitely give NAMI a call. Their acronym is NAMI.
That's great. You have anything else you want to say before we end it?
No, I just want to say thank you for trusting me to talk about this topic. It's very serious. I'm clearly not an expert. I want to get to that level. But for you to entrust me, it really means a lot to me. And I hope that your viewers walk away with a little bit more knowledge. And maybe everyone can try the showering meditation.
We're all going to go try that right now. All right, guys. Well, I want to actually thank you for coming on. I know it was a little difficult for you with your work schedule and just making the time to, help others and educate others. I hope to have you back. Maybe we'll talk about how we can deal with loved ones and people in general with mental health issues.
That would be great.
I have a lot of ideas coming to you guys, and again, all my podcasts, they're there for a reason. Utilize them, guys, especially this episode. It's probably one of the most important ones because it's something we deal with every day in life.
Everyone's impacted one way or another.
Yeah. So with that being said, guys, if you guys are watching on YouTube, always make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you know when I post. If you're listening on any podcast platform, of course, follow me, like, comment, and again, we just like to hear your feedback. And we hope today that you were tuned in and serviced with love, guys. So that's all for today, and we hope you have a great day.
Yes, Bye. Happy Thursday.